The thing about a 9-to-5 and why I'm so passionate about getting people to explore entrepreneurship and getting people to think about quitting their jobs, the thing about a 9-to-5 is it traps you. A 9-to-5, and this will be its own video, is systematically designed to suppress your potential. They'll pay you just enough to keep you there, but they'll never allow you to think that you can do this on your own. Everything about a 9-to-5 is designed to build you a system in which you feel comfortable. You have a certain set of tasks, you have a role that's assigned to you, and you're not supposed to do anything outside of that role. And to advance, you have to learn to kiss up to other people. And that's politics, that's human nature, so it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world. But really, there's a certain set of skills that you need in entrepreneurship. Number one, self-management over all things. You need that to be able to survive, let alone be successful as your own boss. And you don't have that when you're working a 9-to-5. The only exception is if you're working a sales job, if it's 100% commission. My last sales job, the only sales job I really worked was we had a base salary. It was $50,000 Canadian. But even that, you could ride off the fact that you have a bi-weekly paycheck coming in. And so a lot of the skills that I needed to succeed in business, I just didn't have. And not even skills, really, it's character traits. I didn't have that. And so I failed and I failed and I failed. But really, when I look back, it was never failure, because every time I came back to this sport of business, I came back with more knowledge. I came back better equipped. And so was it worth it? 1,000%, because I'm a killer now. I'm unstoppable. The old me couldn't even compare to me right now in terms of my aggressiveness, my focus, my sense of urgency when it comes to business, my, kill to survive mentality when it comes to business. These are character traits that I had to develop. These are muscles that I had to work out. And a 9-to-5 is it's this place where you're not really developing any of those muscles. And those muscles, we all have them, right? The focus you need, the charisma you need, the self-esteem you need, we all have them. It's just if you're not working them out, they very quickly become underdeveloped muscles. That's what potential is like. And a mentor once told me this, is potential is a muscle that when not used, it very quickly becomes underdeveloped. And so that's why so many people, first of all, they fear quitting their jobs. But second, when they quit their jobs and they try and start their own business, even if they try and do it as a crossover before they quit their job, they have a very hard time. It's not the skills, it's not the funnel. You guys have heard me say this before if you watched my other videos. It's not anything technical. More important than your offer or your product or your price or anything like that, your marketing, it's who you are as a person. And you'll notice that there's certain common denominators, character traits that every successful business person, entrepreneur has, especially if they're doing it on their own. The self-esteem, the focus, the things I always talk about in these videos. They have those character traits, and that allows them to figure it out. I'm not afraid of going broke, and you shouldn't be afraid of going broke anyway, right? I know it's a tough thing to swallow, especially if you have responsibilities, but that's the attitude that you're gonna need to survive as your own boss. Is going broke can't be the end-all be-all. Now, there's a money management component that we could talk about, of course. Managing money is different when you don't know when your next paycheck is coming in. That's a whole different thing in itself, which I had to learn the hard way. However, every time you go into business and every time you put an offer out there, every time you put out, an invitation to a workshop, or the fact that you have a new product or you put out content, it's not always going to work. It's likely going to fail for the most part. The focus just has to become who you're becoming. And once I made that my primary focus, I started to win. And I started to see what I used to see as my losses as wins as well. And that's how you ride this wave of turbulence, right? It's by recognizing the fact that every time there's a situation that's unfavorable happening, it's really just turning you into a different beast. It's turning you into a stronger, more savvy, cunning version of yourself. And when you're the only person in your business, or even if you have a very small team, but especially when you're the only person in your business, as it is the case with me, these aren't business problems. I want you to know that everything you're experiencing in your business is not a business problem. It's a you problem. It's you and your willingness to go in and audit yourself. Number one, what about you and what you're doing is causing these things in the business. So your willingness to audit this and your willingness to fix it, and how urgent you are about doing those things, how urgent you are about auditing yourself, your behavior, your perspective, how urgent you are about surrounding yourself with other people who are making more money than you, or who are playing this game of business at a higher level than you, And number three, how urgent you are about actually implementing the things that you found in your audit. And that's what this is all about. But check this out. I work from anywhere in the world. And this is the life that you are setting up for yourself. I want you to remember that. Life you're designing for yourself is so grand. You're going to be working from wherever you want in the world. There's nobody that you're going to have to report to. There's not a soul in the world that you're going to have to call boss. That in itself is worth quitting your job. But there's a maturity that comes with this thing. And for the longest time in my life, I wanted to appear as an entrepreneur more than I actually wanted to do the uncomfortable entrepreneurial things. And you see it all the time. You look at people's Instagram bio and it's like, oh, I help people make money online. They put entrepreneur in their bio. I'm totally not talking about myself, by the way. They put entrepreneur in their bio and then that's it. You don't see them being aggressive about putting out content or being aggressive about helping people or showing people the how-tos or talking about their proof or anything like that. It's just entrepreneur, and they take pictures of their vacations, or they rent a car, or they rent a yacht, or whatever it is, to play that like fool's game, to play the game of appearance. But that is a very weak foundation, and those people get that foundation pulled out from under them as soon as there's any kind of like turbulence or unfavorable condition happening. Between the time that I quit my job and now, I've gotten broke a few times, guys. It's almost unavoidable. Because here's the thing, you have to spend money, number one, to make money. And number two, you have to have a budget for mistakes because you're going to make mistakes. And the mistakes you make are likely going to be catastrophic because there's nobody really helping you. And this is why everything changed for me once I got a coach. This is why getting a coach, a mentor, is so important. This is why paying the folks who know how to run ads is important. I know you might be skeptical, but that stuff is important. Outsourcing the stuff you don't know how to do and being honest with what you do and don't know how to do and then outsourcing that is very important. Getting in communities of people who are playing at a high level is important. All this stuff is important. This is not the time for fear. This is not the time to be scared. And I would say don't quit your job if you're going to bring that same 9-to-5 mentality. Quitting your job, essentially and metaphorically, is like jumping into the deep end of a pool and you don't really fully know how to swim yet. And it's not just a regular pool, it's a wave pool. Like it's a pool with a lot of waves and you're not really able to swim straight all the time and swim effortlessly all the time. Like that's 9-to-5 corporate stuff. That's the matrix. You can stay in the matrix as long as you want, but you know that you're in the matrix. You know that this is all there is to it. And look around you and ask yourself, is this what you want? Is this 6-figure salary from your 9-to-5? But in exchange, you have to ask to take vacation time. Out of 52 weeks in a year, you can only take 2 or 3 weeks of vacation. Like, is that the life that you want for the next decade? 2-3 decades after that, in your mid-50s? They tell you when you can retire? Or you're going to work this well-paying job. Let's say you're making $300,000, $400,000 a month. You're going to start having a family. You're going to buy houses and investments and stuff like that. But you can't quit your job because you still got all those bills to pay that you done racked up along the way. Is that what you want? To not be able to quit your job after all those years? That's the trap. And most people don't realize that trap until they get there. And I'm telling you because I see it. I see it happening around me. I see it with the elders in my life. A lot of them cannot quit their jobs. You always want to be in a position, when I say like money management as an entrepreneur, that budgeting, your emergency budget should always include a budget for mobility. It should always include a section for mobility. You should always protect your ability to be mobile, however you pronounce it. Your ability to get up and go whenever you want. At any point in time, I got my passport in my briefcase, a stack of cash. At any point in time, I can get up and go. I can go to the airport and fly to wherever, right? That is what you want. That mobility is it should be a human right. But to quit your job, you got to put in the 2 weeks. You got to go job hunting. You got to negotiate. You got to go through interviews. Am I good enough to work at your company? Blah, 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 blah. You got to kiss up to the next guy. And it's like, damn, when are you going to wake up and realize that this ain't it? I would rather make a quarter of what I was making at a 9-to-5, but working for myself. than make a full-on juicy salary working for someone else, unless I have plans to start a business in that industry, or I'm very well aware that I'm amassing skills at this job. Like, thank God I worked that 9-to-5 sales job, because it taught me how to sell. I would have learned how to sell otherwise. I'm just that hungry. However, 9-to-5s do provide some good things like that, like the opportunity to amass skills, to network with people, to build relationships in the corporate world. But like, this can't be one of those jobs where there's 50 layers of people on top of you and you're sitting behind a cubicle and you don't run into anyone, or you don't meet anyone, or you don't work with anyone. And that's where I was. And so the moment I quit my job, it's like, okay, well, this is do or die. This is do or die. And you'd be very, very surprised as to how much you can accomplish when it's finally registered in your mind that this is do or die. That survival instinct that we have as humans to hunt is something that you need to become very familiar with within yourself. And so long as you're working your 9-to-5, you haven't hit that. Again, unless it's a sales job, and the closer it is to 100% commission, the more realer, the realer it is. But that's it. It was 1,000% worth it. I'm not going to drag this any longer than it has to be. It was worth it, and I would do it over and over and over and over again. Because every time I failed, and then I went back to a 9-to-5, then I quit my job again to start a business, I came back with something more, and I always made more money. I always made at least double than I did the time before. And I kept going, and I kept going, and I will keep going, and you should too. That's the attitude you need. This is a never-ending marathon of character development and of self-improvement. That's all this really is. It's a never-ending marathon of self-improvement and of character development. And until you realize that that's what it is, and you stop making it about how much money you're making, you'll have that fear. But when you realize that, man, there's really nothing to fear here. Like, get some money saved, whatever comfortable amount it is, 6 months of expenses, whatever it is, and then start, in the meantime, start building your start building your business. You're going to call it a side hustle, but really it's your main thing. Your 9-to-5 is your side hustle. That's how you should be thinking about it. You play it that way, play it a little smarter. You don't have to quit your job and then start your business like I did. Play it that way, play it smart, be mature about it, and you'll win. But the perspective has to be that it has to be about who you're becoming in the process. You're becoming a stronger, more focused, more cunning entrepreneur every single day. That 9-to-5 thing, it's a trap. I'm telling you, please wake up. To the old me watching this, wake up. I always knew that, but I hesitated a lot because success was defined in a very specific way for me. It was defined in terms of the financial metric, the numbers, whereas like the output, whereas it should have been defined by the input, how much work I was putting in. That's the number one metric, and I guarantee you, if you increase the input, you focus on the input, the output will take care of itself. The output will take care of itself. There's nothing you need to focus on or worry about apart from how much work you're putting in and the energy you are bringing to things.